what has it yielded as of now is the big question. Both the presidents met for almost 2 hours, and in Alaska's Anchorage, the meeting is seen as a significant attempt to end the war in Ukraine and get Russia to the negotiation table. Trump had rolled out a red carpet for Putin in Alaska, and the meeting between the two was warm and courteous.
There's no deal until there's a deal.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Friday he had made great progress during a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. But no peace deal was reached on Ukraine in the nearly 3-hour summit. The two presidents left with a vow to meet again.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know.
It's not clear whether the talks had produced meaningful steps towards a ceasefire in the deadliest conflict in Europe in 80 years. A goal that Trump had made at the outset. Trump and Putin spoke for a few minutes to reporters and took no questions.
I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them.
Putin said he hoped the agreements reached at the summit could be a launchpad for settling the war and restoring ties between Russia and the U.S., though he didn't specify what the two sides had agreed on.
I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir.
This was the first time the two had met since 2019. For Putin, the summit was already a big win, regardless of its outcome, signaling Moscow's return to international diplomacy. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who was not invited to Friday's summit, said that the meeting should open the way for a, quote, just peace, but added that Russia was continuing to wage war. A Russian ballistic missile earlier struck Ukraine's Dnipropetrovsk region, killing one person and wounding another. An estimated 1.2 million people from both sides have been killed in the fighting, Trump's envoy to Ukraine said earlier this year.
Meanwhile, the meeting is seen as a significant attempt to end the war in Ukraine and get Russia to the negotiation table. Trump had rolled out a red carpet for Putin in Alaska, and the meeting between the two was said to be quite courteous. Trump had said that while there were 25% chances of the talks failing, their success could allow him to call Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky for a second three-way meeting. Now, Zelensky's exclusion from the summit is being seen as a rethink in Western circles of a possibility that Trump could agree to a deal that is unfavorable to Ukraine. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin hoped that agreements reached at the summit with U.S. President Donald Trump would be a launchpad for settling the Ukraine conflict and restoring ties between Russia and the United States. Putin, however, did not specify that the two sides had agreed on. And some of the significant aspects is that Donald Trump had in fact said that probably the most significant of this is that there is no deal, but talks would continue. In fact, we are joined in by Ambassador Deepak Vora, former Indian diplomat. Ambassador, the world had in fact waited for something to happen. But what do you think? Just an icebreaker, no concessions from Putin at all. But is there any hope for things to go further?
Thank you very much, sir. Always a pleasure to be with you. I listen to your channel very carefully because you carry the best analysis and you yourself are outstanding. Happy Janmashtami to everybody who watches the show. First of all, sir, Ukraine, a ceasefire was not at all on the agenda. That was only to flatter the media and to flatter diplomats like me. And now we'll spend days doing great analyses, etc. What was on the agenda? As far as Donald Trump is concerned, Ukraine can disappear, go to the moon, go to the sun, go to Pluto, wherever he wants it to go. He's not interested. What he wants is natural resources. That's what Donald Trump wants. And he has got that. The deal was already agreed when Steve Witkoff, who's not a diplomat, but a golf player and a property developer and special envoy for President Trump, when he had gone to Moscow. Deal was already made. All that remained was the applause, was the clapping, etc., and the photo opportunities and the press conference. The presser was held. Now, sir, What does Trump say? I've done what I had to, which means I'm going to get access to all of Ukraine's natural resources, and some in Russia will do it jointly. Now the ball is in the court of Zelensky and Europe, who have nothing to offer, sir. Zelensky is history. As far as Europe is concerned, they'll harm and haw and say, ye karenge, wo karenge. They're incapable of doing anything without America. America has withdrawn from Ukraine. He's not interested. Trump wants to look at other places, look at Gaza, etc. He is now outsourcing Ukraine to the Europeans. This is the reality, the harsh reality. It was never intended to be a peace conference. It was intended to be a division of resources conference. And that's exactly what has happened. They'll meet again. You saw the warmth between the two leaders. You heard Trump addressing his Russian counterpart as, well, thank you, Vladimir. Well, it's very unusual for a chap who Mr. Trump's predecessor had called a war criminal, a crook, a scoundrel, a this or that. Now he suddenly becomes Vladimir. So the world is changing very quickly. The bottom line, sir, for both leaders is business, and for Putin, he got what he wanted. No NATO, no further militarization of Ukraine, and I will hang on to all the territory that I have grabbed. I'm continuing to grab more territory, and when the time is right, at that point, I'll say, okay, guys, now I'm going to stop pounding Ukraine. He's got what he wanted. Trump is going to get what he wants. Ukraine can be forgotten, and Shri Zelensky can open a nightclub somewhere and sing songs over there.
Well, two things, Deepak, Ambassador Deepak Bora. One is that, where do you think that EU is going to stand with this? Because at the end of the day, EU is the group of nations that are worried with probable power projection by Russia, and with its main security guarantor actually withdrawing from this. Do you think a sense of betrayal is there within EU on this?
They should have expected this, no, sir? Sir, assume that you're an American. What is your interest in Ukraine? It's not a member of the European Union. It's not a member of NATO. Why should you worry? You have other things on your head. You have that fellow sitting to the east of Russia, a country called China. There's next to Russia, you have issues with that country. And I think this is also agreed. He would have probably told Vladimir Putin that, look, now that you and I have become best friends forever, I am going to hit China in due course, and please don't interfere. This is the deal. It's a very rough world. It's a very harsh world where national interest is priority. As far as Europe is concerned, sir, they will now understand. Since the Second World War ended, the Cold War began, the whole concept was the Americans are there as the guarantors of Europe's security. Soviet Union was their neighbor, America wasn't. It's the country on the other side of the Atlantic as far as NATO is concerned. So the idea was that if Europe gets attacked by the Soviet Union, well, please ring Washington, we'll come and defend you. Now Trump is saying, you defend yourselves. I've had enough of this kind of thing, getting involved in wars which are no concern to me.
Last question before I leave you, Ambassador Deepak Bora. What is it there for India in this? Or we having to be impacted by this, or the good that happens or the bad that happens in this?
I think the good will happen. Why were the tariffs imposed on us? It wasn't to punish us. It was to punish Russia. The idea was to tell the Russians, look, India is your second largest buyer. China, of course, on whom tariffs have not yet been imposed, is your largest buyer. And if these guys stop buying oil from you, you will hurt. Already there's a cap of $47, but I don't think Trump is a very good economist, nor does he have any chaps around him. I'm a development economist. The cap is $47. I say India would be thrilled if you made it $15, but then we would buy petrol and oil from Russia at that price. It's a great benefit to us. So we have not bent. I think the Americans realize this. It was just meant to be a slight aberration, a speed breaker in our bilateral relationship with the United States. India will benefit. He is going to announce in a few days that I'm convinced. I know this fellow, President Donald Trump. I can't say I'm a buddy, but I've met this chap a few times. He is going to say that I'm suspending the thing further for another 3 months or 6 months or whatever. And then after that, we'll decide. Till then, the Ukraine thing will be over. Elections will be held. Zelensky will disappear from the scene, and the world will continue as it is. It's not failed talks as I'm seeing the headlines. The talks were never about Ukraine. The talks were about what the deal is between Russia and America.